I was shocked when he said it'll be about Matic. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the United Stand. It's Sunday Night Live. We're joined by Adam and Ricky. How you doing, lads?
Good night.
Absolutely
good. We're going to do part 2 of what we did last week, which is the tier list of Manchester United signings going right across from Sir Alex Ferguson's year to now. We were meant to get it done in one show last week, but we've still got loads more to do. But let's start off topical. Let's start off with Odion Ighalo. We'll also be talking about Boris's speech. He's spoken. What does that mean for the Premier League? I think it might be quite good news if you want football back. Bad news if you don't. Also, a few other bits as well. But let's start off with Odion Ighalo. Then transfer demand. Effectively, Sky Sports reporting today that I think it's Shanghai Shenhui or something like that are his owners effectively. They want him back. They want him back for the start of the Chinese, which I think is at the start of July. His loan was meant to be to the end of this month, so he may never play for Manchester United again. We know he's on about 300k a week with the Chinese side. I don't know what United are paying, but there is also a supplement to that story that the only way that they would be willing to let Ighalo play for United is if they actually buy him, which is £20 million. Now, Gary Neville said in this market, he ain't worth £20 million. Unfortunately for him, although he's got 4 goals in 8 games, that's a good record, but it's not good enough of a record for somebody of that age to go and spend £20 million on. And it just might be, like 2 ships passing in the night. It isn't the right time. But what do you think about that, Adam, then, on Ighalo? If it's coming down to that, it's a transfer demand, really. We've got to buy him to keep him, or do we let him go back?
Well, that's it, mate. And it's exactly. I think it all comes down to how long the contract would be that we extended it for. I mean, after the age of 30, Fergie, you always used to extend them by 1 year. That seems to have gone out the window now because obviously we signed Matthew up for another 3 years. But we're talking 20 million for a player there. Gary Neville says he's not worth it in the market. I mean, we're talking about, there's rumours about the young lad from Swansea, Joe Rodon, for 20 million, who probably won't get a game at United. So, you know what? I mean, 20 million, you could say maybe a little bit steep, but you know what? Are we going to be able to go out and get another striker this window with everything else that we need and the positions that we're sort of trying to prioritise? It's one of them tough ones, isn't it? People will say Ighalo's going to take game time away from Greenwood, an opportunity away from Greenwood. I prefer Rashford and Martial to Ighalo. Well, of course we do, but the end of the day, United always had 4 strikers when we were at a peak, and we always had 4 strikers. We won all our big trophies as well. So Rashford, Martial, Greenwood, Ighalo, it's not bad, but can 20 million go elsewhere? Can 20 million go on to Sancho? Can 20 million go on to another midfielder or a defender that some people want? That's the killer question. I'd like Ighalo. I think if we're extending him, I was all for extending the loan. Spending money is a different ball game, but I think I'd like to keep him. But if it's anything over 2 years, I don't see the point. I don't.
Doobie Guy says, couldn't we just pay Shanghai 3 million to extend the loan? And I think that's probably what we would all agree with. I think everyone in the live comments would agree with that. I think we would like to. Unfortunately, if we hadn't had this virus, he would have completed the season. We would have seen how many goals he got between April and May, and we would have made a decision on that. Ricky, we're now in a situation where, quite rightly, the owner of, why should they lose their striker on loan when their season's going to start? But it leaves us in that situation potentially where we've got to let him go unless we're going to buy him for 20 million. And let's not forget as well, even if you pay 20 million, what are we going to pay him in wages when he's on 300k a week in China as well? I mean, he's not going to come cheap on that sense. It's not. I don't like this decision, to be honest. It's sort of taken out of our hands, isn't it, because of the virus?
It's a horrible decision because he's made a good start at United, and the fans really like him, don't they? So everybody's going to think, "Wow, we want him to stay. We want him to stay." But when you think about it with a cool head, you've got to let him go back. He's 20 million quid. Obviously, like you just said, the wages that they might that he demand, I don't know what that'd be. And let's be honest, their season's starting. They want him back to start playing. There's no guarantee that we're going to play these games. We're going to spend 20 million quid on somebody to maybe not play until September or something, by which time you might think by September Greenwood's a bit stronger. Maybe he's going to start a bit more often. I'm afraid I would say he's just got to be allowed to go back if they want him back.
MUFC says fans need to wake up. We did the same thing with Ollie, overreacting based on a few games. And although I do like a guy, I think I've said that before. What if it's just a flash in the pan exuberance? He's 31 in June. You spend 20 million, and then next season, is Lukaku reincarnated, or even worse? He's like Forlan when we first got him, and he's not doing it, and his age goes against him. I really like him. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I really like him. I wish we could just, if the Premier League's going to come back, we could just keep him till the end and then make a mind up. But if we've got to make a decision now, I agree with the lads and most live comments. You've got to send him back, because 20 million. We know Timo Werner's available for 50, and his wages will be a lot less. So, it's unfortunate for Ighalo. I think Ighalo will push it, though. I think he wants to stay. So maybe if he's a bit like, let me stay here for a couple of months and I'll come back, we might be able to work something out. But I certainly don't think we should be paying for him. Of course, the big thing is if we're going to get football back. It's been a very interesting day. We knew we had Boris Johnson's speech today. If you're in the UK, he's just finished that about an hour ago. But we also know that this morning another Brighton player has tested positive for the virus. Now, I put a tweet out this morning and I said, basically, look, it's not a secret that certain clubs don't want to play. They don't want the football back. And the Premier League's got a very big meeting tomorrow. I found it quite interesting that Brighton were moaning about playing games, not being able to play games at home. It's very interesting when you look at their home games that they've got left. It's Liverpool, Man City, United. So I'm not getting why they don't want to play at neutral grounds, because their away games are the teams against the teams at the bottom. But that's by the by. Where do you think we are, Adam, at the moment? They're talking about some years of schools going back in June. We were just talking before there about some people, do you go back to work or not tomorrow on the 10th of May? Why can football not be coming back in mid to late June if all those things happen? I mean, of course, these could change. The infection could go up. But if it goes to plan, surely we're going to see football.
Well, if you look at what he said about the schools, depending where your kids are and what year school they're at, then it obviously looks like a behind closed doors social distancing sort of effort for the important. So reception school, obviously the first year one, important years, year 6 before they go to senior school. I can see all that and why they're doing that. But then you've got all the years in between, which is my children. I've got year 7 and year 3, so mine will still be stuck. It just seems like they're trying to minimise the numbers. So if you look at that from the school side of it into football, it does go with the behind closed doors sort of effort. But the only thing scuppering that is and I agree with what you said then, Mark. I think Flex picked up on it as well. He tweeted out about the Brighton scenario. So it's 3 players at Brighton now. They've obviously kicked off about neutral grounds. It seems to be all the teams at the bottom of the table who are pushing towards the void, finish the season, basically. Save our asses, because we don't want to hamper any sort of chance. I mean, playing at Brighton with no fans, is it any different to playing at another ground with no fans? You're not going to get the atmosphere behind you. Yeah, you may know a piece of the turf better than an away ground, but what difference does it make? It's just, I think, any chance a club that's struggling will get to push the coronavirus onto the health and safety side of things, I think they will take it, and they will take it with both hands and try and force the season to be null and void, or cancel the season, whatever they can do, so they don't have to come back till next season. It's, for me, in terms of where we are with it, I don't think it's got any closer from what's said today from Boris. Maybe tomorrow when the Premier League meets, they may come up with other ideas. Obviously, follow suit like Germany, or do you go down the France road, the Holland road, void the season, give the title to PSG? Do we give it to Liverpool then? What happens to the teams at the bottom? It just seems to be no clarity on absolutely anything across the board from what was said by Boris today. For me, there's nothing set in stone, and it just seems to be the way in everything. Schools, work, I think it's going to come across that way in the Premier League again tomorrow. I think we're going to get the same thing, and it's just going to drag on for another few months.
I'll ask this before I go to Ricky. What do you want to happen with the Premier League? I want it back. I want football back. I do, but I want it back when it's safe. And I agree with a lot of what Adam said, and people know I've said this. To me, there are certain clubs in the Premier League who are trying to not get this to happen because they don't want to get relegated. And I I tweeted this morning. I've got to be very careful what I say because people took it the wrong way. I don't think players of those clubs are going out and catching a virus that can kill people on purpose. That's stupid. That's just Twitter twisting something. But what I do think is that we've already seen players, and we don't need to name them, go out and do things they shouldn't have been doing in lockdown in April. So you're telling me that for the Premier League to come back, you need to basically adopt a World Cup scenario where you're basically living in a cocoon, really, and you're not seeing friends and family. And to do that, are you going to get those clubs who don't want to even play the league anymore to do that? Or are they going to pop out in the car to see the family and stuff and maybe pick up the virus? So Premier League's got a very difficult thing to do, but I think if they're going to bring it back, they're going to have to adopt something. Ricky, what are your thoughts? Do you think we're going to see it back in June based off what Boris has said there in this Premier League meeting tomorrow? Or do you think it could go the other way like Adam suggested there with France?
They're aiming at getting it back, so I think they can get it back. I'm in the same. You're same as you. I'd like to see it come back. What fascinates me is these people at the bottom moaning about playing behind closed doors and playing at neutral grounds. What's happening in Germany? Are they playing at neutral grounds or are they playing in their own stadiums?
I think, unless someone in the live comments corrects me or Adam knows, I think they're playing in their grounds.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the cardboard cutouts for each ground. They're actually trying to fill the stadium with cardboard cutouts. So,
okay. And has there been any complaints from the teams who are in the bottom three? Has there been any vote? It doesn't seem to have been in the news. Has there been any difficulty in the Germans actually saying, we're going to start playing again? I've not heard any news about such and such a team who was second bottom, sort of kicking up a fuss or anything like that. It just seems to be so smooth.
Probably be Ricky because there's so much more money in the Premier League for these clubs who get relegated. I doubt if you get relegated in the Bundesliga, you get a £200 million parachute payment, do you? So
that's a fair. Obviously, the amount of money is important, but surely to those clubs, whatever money is in that league, it's it must be equally important. Somewhere near equally as important to them. If the smaller, less wealthy clubs, even if it's a couple of million quid, they're desperate to get it, aren't they, or keep it? So I don't know. But I do think we need to be keeping an eye on that German league, and I'm praying that it goes smoothly. Absolutely praying.
Well, as Jamie just said there, Germany is locked down and have got a big spike in cases. I think I'm just going to say what I've always said is let's just see. The middle of June's a long way away. We don't need to make decisions at the moment. I'd be disappointed if the Premier League did do a France tomorrow and said no. I just think they've just got to keep it possible. Because, look, the Bundesliga is coming back next Saturday, but it might not. If they get a load of infections this week, they won't do it. So I just think either way, you've just got to keep an open mind on it. Of course, I'd like to see it back. I don't know whether you saw Ollie yesterday, Adam. I mean, I think what some people don't realise is that it's very obvious from people like Ighalo and Bruno on their social media posts. Ollie yesterday, it's all right as fans saying all this, that and the other. I think you get one or two players saying they're scared to come back. And if they are scared, I respect that. Don't come back. But a lot of people, Sean Dyche was on about it last week. Ollie's spoken about it. I think it's very clear that a lot of footballers do actually want to get back playing.
Yeah, they do. I did listen to that. They do a lot. Like us, we want to get back to work. We want to try and get back to our normality. The players are the same. It's their day job. They want to get back out on that training pitch and try and improve their standards, get better at what they do, and get on that pitch and perform for the team. You know what I mean? They're sat at home. Now, this is so surreal for every single person in the world. I mean, footballers who are used to being out training, being coached, being one-on-one treated by the nutritionists, by the physios, by all this. I mean, it's totally weird to them for them looking after themselves without any help on hand. It just seems like the world, and since UEFA made their sort of announcement that between all the European leagues, it just seems to be like a free-for-all to who is going to be the first one to make the breakthrough and make the big decision. Because straight away, we've seen them all. It was like France was immediate, Holland was immediate, and Germany just said, look, we're going to be the ones who bring it all back. But do you know what? It's like you said, we will see. We will see on Saturday if it does come back, because any sort of spike in cases again, and then everyone in Europe is going straight back to square one, and then we just have to follow suit again from what they're doing. So if they go back, how long does that put us back again? Because we're 2 or 3 weeks behind them already. So if we see this happen now, there's only an idiot would try and get the Premier League going again, having seen what's happened. So it's a lot rides on Saturday, like you said, in a way. And then what happens after it, probably more because of how many people are going to be around. I mean, in England, you're probably going to get idiots who are going to try and get in the stadium somehow, group outside. How are you supposed to staff that? And then we've seen what happened in VE Day, didn't we, this weekend? Social distancing went out of the window, and we all seen it first. I did. I was just like, I just don't know, because I've seen car washes started opening again, butty shops opening again. I'm like, did some rule change that I didn't see? Or are people taking it upon themselves to actually change things now? It's weird, I think, because there's no clarity, especially in this country. Everyone is struggling. I think big day tomorrow for what the Premier League are going to announce. But like we discussed then, I think the Karen Bradys of this world and the lower teams are probably just going to try and push their case even more and use any excuse that they can. It's disappointing, I know, but the safety aspect is going to keep on coming up every time.
If they're aiming to start playing again in June, mid-June, I believe, they need to set the date tomorrow, because you can't just set the date a week beforehand.
No, true.
They need to know. I think they need to say to them, and they must realise this, because if they set the date tomorrow and say it's in 3 weeks or 4 weeks' time, because we're already about, what's the date today? I'm not even sure, but May the 10th.
Yeah, it's the 10th today, yeah.
May the 10th. So you're talking about 4 weeks. So during that 4 weeks, the players have got to up the training, and at some stage, because don't forget, you're going to have bodily contact in a real match. At some stage, you've got to start playing football against each other and having bodily contacts in training. So there's a build-up to the game
and tactics.
So if they want to start playing in mid-June, they need to set the date tomorrow so that the clubs can work towards that.
Exactly. I mean, 442 FM says, guys, can I get your thoughts on this? How can we advocate mass testing for all individuals involved in football when we're failing to meet the national testing targets daily? I mean, for me, this is very simple. I don't think we need to go across the board on this. The Premier League are going to pay for their own testing. So if they get the tests and they pay for their tests, it's irrelevant. It might be immoral, but it's irrelevant. They're paying for their own testing. It doesn't have any bearing on what ours are. So, but I think that you're right there, Ricky, on that. I mean, we were talking before we went on air. I mean, should footballers not be going back to training tomorrow based on what Boris has just said? If you can't work from home and you can get to work without using public transport, well, I tell you what, even Phil Jones has got a pink Bentley, hasn't he? So he can drive to work. I think they should all be on the training pitch tomorrow. I mean, maybe not hugging each other and all that, but they could certainly be doing some drills and that, start the 100%. Testing tomorrow.
100%.
So, well, watch this space with that one. I mean, look, there'll probably be some leaks later on tonight, knowing what the Premier League are like. And tomorrow will be a big day on that. So we'll discuss that then. But please share the video, everybody, if you're watching. There's a share button underneath and smash a like. We're going to go back to what we were doing last week, which we really enjoyed. And we just ran out of time with this. So basically, we've got a big list of Manchester United players. It's a tier list. You rank them based on whether they were an awful signing, not great, average, good, or elite signing. We got through a few players last week, but there's still plenty more to come. Some of the ones we did last week, just to let you know, De Gea was elite. We did him. Anthony Martial was elite. Luke Shaw was a decent signing or good. We did Mata, average. Ricky wasn't happy with that. We did Pogba as a decent signing. We did Fred, average signing. A lot of people weren't happy with that. Harry Maguire was decent. And Matic we did as well, was also decent. We're going to start off today and we're going to go for, I should have prepped this a little bit, but I know. Let's do one for me then today. Let's turn it on me for a moment. Marouane Fellaini, Adam, where would you rank him as a signing? Awful, not great, average, decent, or an elite signing? Came in as David Moyes' first signing. David Moyes did say, I was meant to be getting Bale, Fabregas, and he ended up with Fellaini. He stayed a few years. A few too many for me.
It's not fair comparing him to players who you might have liked to have signed. It's not fair comparing him to Messi or Ronaldo, is it? That's not really relevant, is it? Who you were hoping.
It's not because
I'm more saying what a Pratt Moyes was. That we're after Bale and Fabregas, and we ended up with Fellaini. That's David Moyes.
It all comes down to we can all say that this player is not good enough. But if a manager of Manchester United wants to sign you, you're not going to say no, are you? You're going to jump on that. You're going to jump in that car like he did and run straight to Old Trafford to get that deal signed. He was exactly the same standard as the manager that came in at the time. Mid-table, which they were, and that was his level. I mean, yeah, he's a great player for Holland. He fits well into that team.
Belgium.
Belgium, sorry, yeah. He fits well into that team, but at the end of the day, there's a game plan, and I think Moyes played his game at Everton around Fellaini. He built his team around Fellaini, and it worked really well there. He gave us absolute nightmares when we played Everton, but for me, as United, again, mismanaged, could not fit him into the right style, the right system, was used as the get out of jail in terms of long ball, as we was criticised with a lot when Jose Mourinho was in charge. But you got to look at the managers and say, Van Gaal loved him, swore by him. Mourinho swore by him. David Moyes obviously brought him in. There was only really, Solskjaer coming in, first thing he did,
got rid of him in 4 weeks.
Got rid of him. First thing he did was get rid of him.
I just realised I love Solskjaer. I give him a bit of stick sometimes, but come on. Yeah. What a man.
Yeah. For me, Fellaini never fitted into any system of ours. I would go... Fellaini has to go into average because he did score some important goals for us sometimes. He really did bail us out with some good important goals. I just think we could never fit him in our team. A player that shouldn't have been bought in the first place for what we needed at the time. And we could never find a spot for him. Fellaini, average for me.
Ricky, Fellaini, I've got a feeling you like Fellaini.
Yeah, what was his cost? How much did it cost?
Well, there's a story about that. We could have bought him a month earlier. We didn't. Yeah. And then we had to pay another 7 million. I think he was about 20. I don't think I wrote it
28
down.
It was.
28 million, yeah.
28 million. 30 million it was in total.
Which in those days is probably 60 million now, I would say.
No, you're going to... No, there's not that much inflation, Mark. In fact,
you'd be surprised.
0.1 in it, 1%.
We're talking 20 million for Ighalo at 31.
Yeah. We paid 50 million for Fred.
Yeah, Fellaini, I think Fellaini gets too much undue stick. I think he's a decent player.
I knew you'd be a fan of his.
Before last week, I noticed a lot of the comments seem to think that we were just comparing a player directly with a player without taking anything else into account. I'm taking into account what you get from that player, how long he plays for you, what the player costs. I know he didn't end up in that category, but I even had Romelu down as an elite signing. I'm actually talking about a piece of business. To get a keeper for nothing who's played for you for 6 years and played a lot of games, that's an elite piece of business. I'm not saying he's an elite player, so the same applies now. I'm not saying Marouane Fellaini was a great player for us, but I think for what we got out of him, we've only won 3 trophies post-Ferg here, and he's scored an important goal in all 3 semi-finals. You know what I mean? I think he gets too much stick. I also think he gets labelled with this tag that we play long balls when he plays. What did tend to happen is if we were desperate for a goal, and it worked a few times, by the way, is we stuck him in the box with 10 minutes to go and started throwing high balls in. But he
did at Everton. Yeah. Like he played at Everton just off the front, man. That was his best position.
When he started, you haven't got the time in your life to go through every game and watch them all again. But if you could watch all the games that Marouane Fellaini played, obviously, if you've got someone who's 6'4" and good in the air, obviously when you get a corner or a free kick, you're going to put the ball in the air and aim for him. That's obvious. It'd be stupid not to. But they're not using that tactic throughout the game. When he was playing in midfield, he's got a good first touch and he keeps it simple and gives it to the nearest man. He's a perfectly decent midfield player, Fellaini. Perfectly decent. I heard you say, when Adam was saying it, like he was a mid-table player with Everton. Throughout the time he played with Everton, they finished about 6th, just like we are right now. Do you know what I mean? And he was getting 30-odd games a season, and that was playing for Everton. And he was an important player for Everton. He's not an important player for us. You know what I mean? I think he gets too much stick, and I also think there's a few myths knocking about. Of course, he was great in the air, and he did score some good goals because of that. But we didn't just put him on and put him in the box and throw high balls up to him. That was not what used to happen. It did happen when we were desperate, but it was not how we played generally during the game.
It's like you said there, Ricky. You pretty much nailed it there, mate. Because we were champions when we bought him, and we went down to Everton standard. So, you know what I mean? The Everton manager and an Everton player coming in, he was important to Everton. But like you said then, you nailed it then when you said he wasn't important to us. So why did we buy this player? That was...
I'm going to, for the money he was and the length of time that he played, the important goals that he scored, I'm going to say he was a decent signing.
Okay, so Adam's gone with average and Ricky's gone with decent. I don't disagree with a lot of what's been said there, and contrary to belief, I couldn't stand him, but I'm not going to say he was awful because I do agree he did. I think it's a good comment there from John Briggs. He says Fellaini was shocking to watch, but he was really productive, and I suppose it depends what your interpretation is, but he was definitely productive. What I didn't like, and Adam touched on it there, is I used to have him in the fantasy Premier team when he was at Everton. He used to get loads of goals and assists, and I think that I'm glad we didn't do it. But actually, we probably should have done it. His best position is off the striker, just off it. Yes. He used to cause Vidic loads of problems. But what we decided to do with him is play him as a midfielder, quite deep. And he hasn't got the creativity of a Carrick or a Scholes. He didn't have that. And there's that famous clip of when he ran the ball out of the play, because he just wasn't that sort of player. He was physical, he was good in the air, and he could keep it simple. But I don't think he was ever a Manchester United player, and I think that's the thing. I mean, I went down that, not because I was being like rude to Ricky, just because I had flashbacks of him in the midfield. I really didn't like that style of player for me. But I'm not going to go horrible on him. I'm actually going to go, I'm going to say average. So that puts him down as average with me and Adam on that one. But yeah, I couldn't stand him as a player, but I can't argue that at times he was quite productive. I just didn't like that style of player. Next one I want to do is Lukaku, for out of the chip pan and into the fire. Romelu Lukaku. I think this is going to be interesting. What do people think about Lukaku? Was he an awful signing? Not great, average, decent, or elite? We'll go to you first on Lukaku, Ricky. I'll get a feeling you might like Lukaku. Might be up your street as well.
I mean, he was a lot of money, Lukaku. Obviously, I'm always going to take that into account, and we only got 2 seasons out of him.
76 million.
Yeah, the 2 seasons we got out of him, though. The first season.
First season was good.
You've got to say he was excellent. 27 goals in all competitions. You know what I mean? You'd take that every year, wouldn't you? Even if he has got a poor first touch.
Trampoline toes.
Yeah, but you've got to be able to pull for a touch at time. But sometimes it was good as well. You know, he could. He was certainly a target man that you could hit with the ball. I mean, you know, everybody loves Rashford, but we played Rashford as a centre forward at the beginning of this season. All he himself said is useless with his back to goal. We're working on it. You must remember that comment. He never said that about Lukaku. Do you know what I mean? He's just a bigger, stronger player. He's a more physical specimen. His foot, man, I'm not saying his foot is any better or any worse, but certainly better at it for whatever reason. Probably his size and his strength, just a more difficult opponent. So in his first season, you've got to say excellent return, 27 goals really. The next season, goals return for the amount of games that he played wasn't too bad. The next season was the season that Mourinho got sacked, and Mourinho had a bit of a downer on him. I don't know if Lukaku wasn't fully fit or whatever. Quite a few people seem to think he had problems with his weight. But he still got 15 goals in that season. Didn't play a hell of a lot. And then Ollie came in, and Ollie to me clearly didn't rate him. And I don't know if you recall this, but he scored twice in 3 consecutive games. When did we last have a striker score twice in 3 consecutive games? He scored twice away to Crystal Palace on a Wednesday night. Then he scored twice on a Saturday at home to Southampton. And then he scored twice at PSG on a Wednesday night. He scored 6 goals in a week. We've got some strikers I could name who were getting that in a season a couple of years back. He got 6 goals in a week. The following weekend, we got beat at Arsenal and he missed a sitter and he got dropped. And I just don't get it. It's too short a memory. Too short. 6 goals in a week, miss a sitter, dropped. Too short a memory. I'm going to go probably decent signing. We got our money back as well, didn't we?
I don't know.
I think we got
70. I think we got 70 from Inter, didn't we?
Yeah, we more or less got our money back. You know what? Because we're actually discussing the piece of business. If he cost us 10 million for what we got out of him, I'm erring on the side of an elite signing. But I'll go decent.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember that week. And I remember saying, if we get top 4, I'll never forget Lukaku's part, because we had a few injuries and he came in, Palace, and I was at the Southampton game. He got a couple penalty. He's a penalty box king, outside the box, trampoline toes, Timberland boots, Sainsbury's car park, wherever the ball is. But in the box, he was good. And you're right, it was a Luke Shaw cross against Arsenal, and he missed it, and they went on and won. And I think Ollie probably didn't like that fact, and maybe it was a bit unfair. But Adam, Lukaku.
Lukaku wound me up, to be honest, because I thought he was better than what he actually turned out for United. It's like Ricky said, then 6 goals in a week and then nothing for weeks on end. And I spoke to I've got a few Everton fans who are a few Everton fan friends, and they said exactly that with Lukaku. I looked at Lukaku at Everton, I went, he's what United need. He said, you cannot argue with Lukaku's goal ratio at all. He said, and he went, we know, but he disappears for months on end. I don't know why, how, and then he'll score his goals in spouts, like Ricky said. Then he'll have 3 weeks where he might bang 12 goals in and then get his tally up for the season. I remember at Everton, he scored 5 in one game. I can't remember who it was against now. Basically put him right up there in the top 3 strikers in the league, and he kept doing it season on season. What I was unhappy with Lukaku was, like you said, his work rate outside the box. His fitness wasn't on point. That was clear, because you could see in games he made 1 sprint in a game, and when you sat there, you don't always see it on TV, but he'd be panting. He'd be absolutely out of breath. And what was disappointing for me was his physique at Everton, and he was frightening at Everton. When he was running at United's defenders for Everton, I was scared. You could see he had something in him. And then he goes to Inter Milan. Straight away, Conte gets hold of him, and he looks like the striker he was again that we bought all of a sudden. So what happened to him again in them 2 years at United? Was it mismanagement again? And this is the thing, because his goal ratio puts him up there in the decent category, because you can't argue with goals. He's a striker, and he scores goals. He's a box striker, and if you wanted a chance to fall to any of our strikers at the time, you probably put Lukaku on the end of it, wouldn't you? Over Martial and Rashford and whoever else we had then. But I think we would have put Lukaku on the end of it. He just, in that second season, things just started to go completely wrong for him in terms of he's not getting enough time on the pitch, for one. When Ollie came in, Mourinho's downward spiral as a United manager sort of affected him, because Mourinho was trying to build a team around Lukaku. That's why we never seen Rashford and Martial play together. It was all up to Lukaku. That's how he wanted it. He was the new Didier Drogba in Mourinho's eyes, the big centre forward. He had his big midfielder in Matic, and he had his strong. Who did he have at the back? Actually, I can't remember now. But that was probably where we went missing. But Lukaku, in terms of rating, price expensive at the time. You probably say 27 was worth that. Not many players get 27 goals a season. Second season, I would put him, for what he did in the first season, he's going. I'm gonna be brutal. I'm gonna slide him into average for his second season, just because I thought we could have got more from him. I seen a better player in him, and when he went to Holland, if the circumstances are right for Lukaku, he's a great striker, but he seems to be a bit of a sulker. And when things weren't going his way at United, it just didn't work for him at all. I wanted more from him, so he's decent first season, average second. If we got our money back, like Ricky said, it's a fair point. So we've not really lost out on him. He's done his job for 2 years, you could say, with the amount of goals he's got. But I'm looking at some of United strikers. He doesn't come in to the decent or elite sort of class that some of them are for me. So I'm going to go average on Lukaku.
So Ricky's gone decent. He was nearly going to go elite. And Adam's gone average. I've got the deciding vote again. This is good. I said when we bought Lukaku, and the video's out there, I said he's got a terrible first touch, and I think he's a flat track bully. I don't think he scores goals against the top 6, which neither of the lads have actually mentioned, but statistically, his goal ratio against the top 6 was terrible. So I was right. I thought we overpaid for him a little bit, but I think Ricky's right and Adam's right. He did return that in the first season. The second season, for whatever reason, and Lukaku has put a bit of the blame on United, actually, so we don't know the truth. He was overweight. He was too heavy. And he was puffing after half an hour every game, because he was a player that really gave his all. but he was puffing after half an hour. So for me, Lukaku just didn't suit what United wanted. And I put that on Mourinho because Mourinho bought him. And I don't think he was what United needed to build for a long term. So I'm going to put Lukaku in an average because I sort of saw the warning signs with him from the start. And he basically did exactly what he did. He scored a lot of goals, but he fluffed his lines a lot against the top six. And his first touch wasn't good enough for a striker. But in his defence, somebody said it as well, he's a striker who thrives on width. We've not really had any width at United for a long time. So I think he missed out on probably more goals than he would have got if he'd actually had somebody whacking decent balls into the box. But I'll put Lukaku as an average. The next one's a good one. It's he says it's a good one. I've forgotten who it was going to be. Zlatan. I want to do Zlatan. So he came in as a free for Jose Mourinho in the year that we got Pogba and Eric Bailly and Mkhitaryan. I can't remember how many goals he got. Ricky probably knows. He was there for about 8 months, did his knee, didn't make the final, tried to come back, clearly lost it. As a free signing, Adam, were you impressed by Zlatan and where would you rank him?
As a free signing, one season, he goes into elite if we're doing a transfer, don't we? I mean, free at the end of the day. His goal tally was right up there until he got his knee injury. He was immense. I remember watching him in his first few games, and even if he was like a Cantona sort of figure, I seen him as. He wasn't always involved in games, but when he was involved in the game, something happened. He was involved in the game. I thought he put Pogba in his place. I thought when Zlatan was there, there was only one top honcho there, and that was Zlatan. I thought Pogba was better with Zlatan around. I just think for like what we're trying to judge it on, I know Ricky's going to come in and say the same thing in terms of value, then the amount of goals he scored his first season, 2 trophies in that season. He scored in the final, the winner for the Carabao Cup. And obviously he would have been involved. He was, I think, was he the last player to get a hat-trick for us as well in that Europa League run-in? I think he got one against St Etienne at Old Trafford with that freak free kick. He got a hat-trick in that game. So for me, Zlatan goes into elite, definitely for one season, for no money. 2 trophies. I think stats speak for themselves in terms of that. I mean, I give Lukaku praise for his first season. If he did the same thing the second season and he was still playing, you'd be exactly the same. But Zlatan cost nothing and got exactly the same return in his first season. I think, was it 28 goals, someone just said, for Zlatan? Around 28 for nothing. 2 trophies.
Yeah.
I mean, he just scores goals wherever he goes, doesn't he? And he's a good influence and a good leader. For me, definitely elite signing Zlatan.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's I hope, as I keep saying, it's about the actual piece of business. That's the most important thing. If it was 80 million quid and he did his knee in 8 months down the line, I'd be putting him in the Porto average. But to get him for nothing and to get all those goals out of him, I'd say it's an elite piece of business.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fee has to go in hand with what they produce on the pitch. But when you've got someone for free, I mean, obviously his wages were a lot of money, but when you get someone who's free, he gets the goals. Look, I remember, Bournemouth, I said it this morning, they rolled up to Old Trafford and played a high line because they weren't bothered about the ball over the top. He missed a lot of chances. Pogba should have been the top assist scorer in the league that year. Zlatan quite simply should have had 45 goals, but he got 30 goals. So, look, I can't argue it down because I think if we'd paid any money for him, I might argue it down to decent. But no, I'm more than happy to go with that with Zlatan. It was what it was. It was a good bit of business. Next one I want to do is quite a good one. It's from Van Hal. We did Luke Shaw last week and we said it was decent. It was the same summer that we spent £15 million on Daley Blind. Definitely well liked, Daley Blind, but where would you go with him as a signing? Was he awful, average, decent, elite, Ricky?
Elite.
Really? I knew you were going to like him.
Absolutely fantastic player. 15 million quid. Could play centre-back, left-back, centre-midfield, left foot like a wand. I don't know why Mourinho had a downer on him. Do you know what I've got a feeling about Jose? I think people get in the comments and say you're raving mad, I'm sure. But he didn't like Marshall. He didn't like Blind.
Van Hal signings, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think he wants to pick. Look, before I say it, any manager wants to pick a team in his own. You know, that's his team. You want your own team, but even it's still your own team, no matter where those players come from. So when you look at the players that you've got when you arrive, you shouldn't be taking into account who signed those players. I've got a feeling he didn't want any credit for any success going to the previous manager. For him, the way he treated Anthony Marshall, to me, was an absolute disgrace. Actually signing Alexis Sanchez and dropping him when he was banging the goals in for fun was an absolute disgrace. And the way he treated Daley Blind was unbelievable. Under Van Gaal, lots of people spoke about Blind not being good enough at centre-back, not being big enough and not being quick enough. But we had Smalling and Blind as the two centre-backs all season. And we had the joint best defensive record in the league. You know, you make the best of your own ability. And with Blind, it was intelligent positioning, great first touch, great, but not getting into trouble ever because you're on the ball, always finding a pass. Blind's a great player. He's a great player. I still watch him when he plays for Holland. I know he had an injury last year or an illness, didn't he?
I
think Blind is a fantastic player. And I think he would have. You know, obviously, we got rid of Van Gaal. If Van Gaal was still there now, Blind would still be in our team now. It's not his fault that the new manager came in and messed him about. What I did notice during Mourinho's season is when we won the Europa League. You do remember who played centre back that night, do you? Smalling and Blind again. So he's got Blind. In and out of the team, in and out of the team. You get to a cup final, which is going to get you to the Champions League final, and he picks him, and it just stinks to me. It makes me think, this gets us in the Champions League. We have really, really, really got to win this game. So he picks him in that game. I just don't get it. I think Blind's a fantastic player, and I think Mourinho thought he was a good player, but just wasn't wearing it. And I think for 15 million quid, he was an elite signing.
Well, I think that's a bit high, but Adam, what do you think?
That's how I
I won't go as high praise as Ricky. I do understand where he's coming from. Blind went too soon for Manchester United, but this is the problem with these so-called versatile players. They just get put around in different positions. When you've got a player for a certain position, that player stays in that position if he's good enough normally. The fact that Blind was so versatile was probably his downfall in the end, because I seen him on games on the left-hand side. I thought he's going to get rinsed here. But his knowledge of playing at centre-back and holding midfielder and the way he reads the game helped him deal with pacey wingers. I think it was when he played on the left when we beat Liverpool 2-1 when Mata scored both goals. I'm pretty certain he played on the left-hand side. He played at left-back in that game. And I was concerned. But the way he read the game was superb in that game. But in the end, like you say, 12 million. I think we got 12 back for him, didn't we? Pretty certain.
Yeah, it must have been about that. Yeah.
We got our money back for him as well. I just didn't see enough of him to say he was an elite signing for us. I just don't think he played enough. And again, that's because he's the versatile side of it. I mean, we needed a ball-playing centre-back. We got rid of one in Daley Blind. Daley Blind plays at centre-back. He played at centre-back last season for Ajax up into a semi-final of the Champions League. So, I mean, he got found out a little bit in that from the high ball. I think they targeted him for the high ball in that one, which is an obvious way and probably is one of his flaws at centre-back. But even holding midfield, he was very, very good on the ball. He could pass the ball and he could see a pass better than a lot of what we had at the time. He was better in it than Herrera was. I know that for certain. Yeah, Herrera may have had a bit more tenacity about him, but Daley Blind had a bit more class about him, I thought he was a very, very good signing. I probably wouldn't go elite because I just didn't see enough of him. And that's management again, because we have so many. Ricky pointed it out there. He nailed it from one manager to the other to the next. He's good for one. One player may like him, but don't know where to play him. For me, he goes definitely into decent for me. He's no less than that. For the money we paid for him, the money we got back for him, I like Daley Blind. I really like Daley Blind. He's a very, very good player. I'm touching on to decent rather than elite. That's all.
If you check it, when we had the joint best defensive record in the league under Van Gaal, I think he played 35 or 36 games at centre back. Daley Blind.
That's because we had a full defensive 11 with Van Gaal.
We did play two holding midfielders, didn't we?
Yeah, we had 2 holding midfield. I mean, bloody hell, if you got past United, then you were winning the game because we did nothing going the other way, did we? That was the problem most of the time. If you scored against United, I think Mourinho was the first person to suss Van Gaal out, really, when he gave United 70% of the ball at Stamford Bridge. And then he knew he had one-class player in Hazard. He said, the way you beat Manchester United, I remember the words, you give United the ball because we can't create anything. That was the issue we had with Van Gaal. Defensively, we were solid, but we had a lot of a defensive setup, I thought, with Van Gaal. I thought that's where it sort of narked a lot of the United fans with Van Gaal. But
I don't think there's much of a difference between Van Gaal and Solskjaer, apart from the fact Solskjaer sorted us out on the break to hurt teams. I still think we play with 2 holding midfielders, and we're hard to score against, but unlike Van Gaal, we've got a front 3, and now we've got Bruno as well, and we might not play like that anymore now we've got Bruno, but we've got a front 3 that when these teams are trying to break us down, if they make a mistake, we go boom on the other end. So, I'm not,
Yeah.
Right.
But I would go decent with Daley Blind as well. I really like Daley Blind. I think if he'd had another yard of pace, he would have been one of the world's best left backs. And he still did a good job anyway without that yard of pace. Lovely left foot. I do agree with Ricky why he didn't play. And I just put him at decent because I just can't quite put him in as an elite.
That goal against Liverpool, never forget that. I sat right behind that goal. That was a peach. That was a cracker, that one.
So we've got Daley Blind at decent. This is a request from the live comments. Somebody just asked it, so I'll do it. It might be quite a quick one. Go to you first on this one, Ricky. We bought him in the same summer that we bought Daley Blind. Actually, we paid. I've got 67 million here. We did a quiz question last night, and I thought it was. I mean, this is. I wrote this down, but we did a quiz question last night, and it was totally different. So, Di Maria. I thought it was 60 million and we sold him for 45. I've got here 67 million and we sold him for 56. It's still the same, still about 15 million.
Yeah, I thought we got him for 55.
Yeah, so let's just go with what I said last night. We paid 60 million for him and we sold him for 45 within a year. Where would you rank sort of Di Maria as a signing? Because it started off quite well.
Yeah, we're talking about as a signing for the piece of business, aren't we? Just dead quickly, going back to Daley Blind, I think somebody put on there that we actually made a profit on him, so that put him in the elite bracket for me. But anyway, Di Maria was a disaster. Yeah. What's the lowest category?
Awful, yeah.
Awful.
Yeah,
awful. Especially, I would have put him one step above awful, apart from what his wife's just said about Manchester last week.
Yeah, stupid bitch.
Awful.
Yeah,
Adam.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Like what Ricky said then about his wife, everything about the guy was just wrong for United, and then his wife just topped it all off for him. But like you said, to lose money for a player of that caliber within a year and not get anything from him, definitely awful. Easy.
I put awful as well. I mean, I just a prime example of a player that didn't want to be at our club. Very good player, but didn't want to be at our club, and it's just left a bad taste in the mouth, hasn't it? So yeah, I'd go with awful on that one. Let's move to let's do. I think this is an interesting one because we can't really do a Bruno or anyone like that because it's too recent, and I think even a Dan James is too recent because I think 1 year's not enough. But going back to that previous summer where we bought Fred, we did Fred last week and we said he was average based on, a lot of people didn't like that, but I think it was the right decision. What about Diogo Dalot? 19 million pounds 2 years ago now. Obviously he's been injury prone. Have we seen enough of him, Adam? I mean, where would you rank him as a signing? Awful, not great, average, decent or elite?
He goes into average because he's still at the club. He's still got years ahead of him. We've just not seen enough of him because of injury. You can't really go any of the not great and awful ones because you know what, he has contributed. He was part of that team I think, did Ollie bring him on for Eric Bailly when Bailly was having a nightmare at PSG? Did he come on for him in that game?
Dalot,
He did,
shot that got the penalty.
Yeah, he hit the shot. And you know what? Going forward, he skinned some of them PSG defenders going forward. So, you know what? The guy has got something there. He's not played enough games to get into decent. His injuries have hampered him. If we're going to play 5 at the back, I think that's a good position for him as a wing back. But he's not going to get in ahead of Aaron Wan-Bissaka in a 4, is he, at the moment? That's a given. The guy, I still think he's going to be at United for a while. I mean, there was rumours that, I can't remember who it was, the other week as a club was in for him.
Yeah, Spurs. Mourinho,
for decent money as well. So I think that says it all, really. If that sort of calibre of club is coming in, then you've got a decent player on your hand there. But I said it decent then in the comment, didn't I? But for me, he's just not played enough. It's not all his fault at all. But 19 million for the turnout that we've got game-wise shifts him into the average, I would say. But you could easily see him turning into decent. We just don't know. That's the problem with Dalot. We've not seen enough of him. Fits and starts because of, I mean, has he ever strung 3 or 4 games together? I don't think he has. So it's hard to judge a player because he's not in the team every single week. But as a signing, you could see potential there. And you know what? That was a high pressure game against PSG, and to come on off the bench as well in that situation when we were getting torn to pieces down that side. You know, to hold up there, it says a lot for a character. And the fact that same club, PSG, it was PSG who came in for him, was it?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
There you go. There's something there. He just average for his games. He's just not played enough. That's all I'm judging that on. Nothing against how he's played. His fits and starts. He's been good. He's been okay. Some mistakes, but he's still young. But he's shown potential for me to definitely get into average. Nowhere below that.
Ricky?
I'll go one better than that. I'll go decent. I think I'd like Adam said a couple of times there. I think he has definitely got something, and certainly as an attacking player, I think he's got a great cross on him. And I like the way he can. Nobody in the live comments needs to say that I'm comparing him to David Beckham. I'm really not. But he's got that move of being able to shift the ball and cross it like Beckham used to do, as opposed to having to beat a man to cross it. So many players need to try and get that space. He just shifts it a little bit to the right and he can whip it in. And I think he's a really good crosser of the ball. I think as an attacking fullback, he's proper decent. And he was only, how much was it? 19 million. And is he 21 now?
I think so, yeah, 2021.
I think we'd get at least that back for him if somebody came in for him. So,
yeah.
As a piece of business, I'll say it's a decent piece of business. Huh?
Okay, I want to get another one in before the end, so I'm going to go very quickly. And he will end up being average because I'm going to go not great, even though that's going to probably cause people a little bit. I think he's massively, I think we bought him injured, and I think he's stayed injured. So to me, I think that's bad business. I also don't think he's very good defensively, and I just haven't seen enough of him. But he can definitely turn it around. But I'll make a prediction with Wan-Bissaka ahead of him. I can't see a good future for Dalot. I think that he will end up leaving, and I think we should get the money back while we can. So I can't be hypocritical to the fact that, you know, other players I've marked down. I think as a signing, he's not been great so far. But we'll put him down as average because that's the middle score on that one. Right. Who do we want to do? Do you want to do Lindelof or Eric Bailly?
Cool. I mean,
Let's do Eric Bailly. I think that's probably more controversial. Eric Bailly, we paid 30. Well, this surprised me. 34 million apparently we paid for Eric Bailly. I don't know whether anyone wants to double check that, but apparently we paid 34 million pounds for Eric Bailly. And we did it in the 16-17 summer. So that's what, coming up for 4 years ago? No. Yeah, 2016. Yeah. So 4 years ago.
When we bought Zlatan, wasn't it?
Yeah. 34 million 4 years ago. Eric Bailly. Ricky, go.
I would go, I keep forgetting the categories, but I'd go in the fourth one down. I'd go one below average.
Not great.
Yeah, not great, yeah. He's he's a clumsy player. He's clumsy in the challenge, and he's also a little bit clumsy in possession. I watched the Chelsea away game. He played at Chelsea away because Lindelof was injured or Lindelof was ill. It's the only sort of big game that he's played in. He come on as a sub against City, didn't he? But he played against Chelsea because Lindelof was ill, and we got away with it big time in the first 5 or 10 minutes. He played a back pass to De Gea as De Gea was running out to his right, and it went towards the goal. But De Gea had to run back and kick it past the striker, really put him in a bit of trouble. He tried to beat somebody and lost it, and they got a breakaway. He was proper dodgy, and as I say, I only watched it yesterday, and he smartened his game up a little bit. But even Gary Neville in co-commentary said it's a good job Bailey's smartened up, because he was really struggling a bit early doors. But that's just one game the other day. I did a little tweet about him. I think you saw it, Mark. He's also, like you mentioned, injury prone. Now, I know I've just said Dalot was decent, but I'm confident we'd get our money back for Dalot. Plus, he's only 19. How old's Bailey? 21 now. He's 19 when we signed him.
Eric Bailey must be about 27, I would say. 26, 27, yeah.
I don't think we'd get our money back for Bailey. Plus, whether it's through injury, I only did this the other day, so I think I can remember it. Whether it's through injury or not being selected even at times, he played 25 games in his first season. And I think it was 14 games in his... I'm only going league games. 13 games in his third season. And so far this season, he's played 2 league games. And it's just not good enough, whether it is through fitness. And it's also through selection. The season he played 25 games, don't forget, it's Mourinho who signed him. And I've just touched on this about they've got to play their own players, and they don't like to select certain other managers' players. He played 25 games that season. You can bet your bottom dollar if somebody else would have been in charge as soon as Mourinho signed him, he left. So, another manager wouldn't have given him 25 games. Mourinho's got to play him. He's played 13 and 14 and 2 since then. So he's not good enough for Man United. There are loads of people love him. He isn't good enough. And we won't get our money back. He's 27 now, and he hasn't played enough games. 13 games a season for 30-odd million quid. That's what he's had in the league. He averages out to. So poor, or whatever you call it. Not shocking.
Not great. Second from bottom then for him. Adam, so you're pondering this one?
No, not bad. No, not as bad as Ricky makes him out to be. I put him in average simply because of his injury record. You can't get away from injuries. I mean, I slag Phil Jones off. I think Ricky's got Eric Bailly in the same category as like a Phil Jones. Then, if I've got that right,
you don't forget, we people in the comments making this mistake. I'm not comparing the two players.
We're judging them off. We're judging them off, like I said.
Some of the business.
Injuries, business.
Jones has played 200 games, hasn't he? Do you know what I mean?
In how many? What's his average a season, though? That's what we're taking. Jones doesn't get an average a season, does there? We don't see 20 games out of Jones, do we?
I'm also not talking league games there.
Yeah, no. I understand. No, I'm totally with the injury record for Bailly. You can't rely on a centre-back to be your number one centre-back. If you can't get more than 15 games out of him in a season, then forget it. You're just not going to be good enough for Man United. From what I've seen him on the pitch, he just seems to start to get a little bit better, and then he gets injured or something happens to him. That's what's happened in the last 2 seasons that I can see. I remember coming out the Arsenal game. Was it early on in the season? Was it the 1-1 with the VAR goal for Aubameyang? I remember all the Arsenal boys outside Old Trafford talking on the fan cams. They said there's only one player there who we'd take right now, and that would be Eric Bailly, simply because that's what they're missing, some combative centre-back. I think we probably would struggle, like Ricky said, to get the money back, so it's a fair point. I don't see anyone spending more than 25 million on Bailly. He has still got something there. He has performed decent. I mean, he did start shaking the Chelsea game, but he did pull off a great tackle also in the second half, or a good block as well in that. He is good at that. I do think bordering on the rash side of tackling, he looks like he wants to hurt someone. I've seen him go into tackles that he didn't need to go into the way he did. It reminded me a little bit of Gabriel Heinz in terms of the way he attacks a player with the ball and the way he tackles. It's like, you don't need to be doing that. I just don't see it as not great. I do feel like if he had a run of games, I know we're bringing all the facts into it again. It's the word not great. It's just not sitting right with me with him for some reason. I don't know what it is. I'm going to go average just because I feel like we can get something out of him, but then injuries are pulling me straight back again. They really are. I can't get past the injury side of it. And like you said, we can't get 15 more goals, 15 more games out of him in a season, then there's no way getting past average.
So Ricky's got him not great, and Adam's got him as average. I think that Eric Bailly's injury record is a real problem, and we're all saying if he can just get games, but he's actually 26. People in the live comments are saying, but the problem is he's been injury prone for your formative years. He's going into his prime, and he's an injury prone player. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get over his injury problems, much the same as Phil Jones. When you're getting those sort of injuries, and it's like Dalot. We bought Eric Bailly, and this is on Mourinho again. We bought Eric Bailly injured. He'd had 3 separate injuries in the season before we bought him. 3 separate injuries. So it was there. It was obvious. Bad signing because of his injury record. But he's brilliant in the air. If you look at his aerial stats, they're very, very good. He's also got pace. He could be, next to Maguire, a very good centre-back. He won't be because of his injury record, unfortunately. But I don't mind. I mean, I agree with everything that Ricky said about him being reckless in that. But I also think that with the right coaching, he could have been a really, really good centre-back. So for me, I'm not willing to go as low as not great. So I'm just going to go average with Eric Bailly. But I think you can make an argument that it is not great because and also I nearly did go not great because I think £30 million for somebody who's not paid. Somebody just said there he's not played 50 games in 4 years. It's not a good bit of business. And again, it's another Mourinho signings that's not a good bit of business. So yeah, Mourinho across the shows we've done, you've got Matic decent as his best, Dalot average, Fred average, Lukaku average, Pogba was decent, Zlatan was elite and he was free, Eric Bailly average. So Mourinho didn't do that good, really. Not a very good success rate. But we've hit the end of the show. It's flown by again. So thanks for coming on, lads.
No problem. Enjoyed it.
Rick the Red on
Always.
Twitter. And what's yours, Adam?
Mad Red United on YouTube and Instagram. Adam Stock 301 on Twitter.
There you go. So we'll be back in the morning with the Man United news, and tomorrow's a big day for the Premier League. Depending on which way you go, fingers crossed we don't get no French decision about abandoning it altogether. And if we do, make sure you relegate the bottom 3 Premier League. Don't write it all off. That's what I say. Don't let them get away with it. But no, I think we need to extend it, and let's see where we are in June personally. But thanks to the lads. Really enjoyed that. I hope you've all enjoyed the show as well. Make sure you smash a like on the video, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.